Well, good afternoon, all. My name is Gary Nix. I am a student at at Houston Christian University, and this is my video assignment, discussing crisis trauma and crisis response. So, in this video, I'll be discussing 3 points. And the 3 points will have to do with the heroic phase, the honeymoon phase, and the disillusionment phase. And some of the issues and concerns that arise with that, both for the client or the victim or the person in crisis, and the counselor or the caregiver or the pastoral care, whoever it may be, dealing with that crisis. So the first question here is, what are the needs and challenges at the heroic phase? So I'll take a moment and read those. At the heroic phase, there tends to be a denying the impact of the disaster that it's had on, or is having on the victims and their homes. Secondly, a denying of the impact that the disaster is having on the victim themselves and their families. And then the next thing is utilize extraordinary measures to protect their homes and their families. When we say extraordinary measures, going above and beyond. And oftentimes that's done out of fear, loss, survival, trying to hold on, and then stockpiling community assets. I want to liken this to COVID. Remember that at the beginning of COVID, there was a stockpiling, right? Most of us dealt with that, and when we went to the store to buy certain things, toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning products, they were really hard to find. And oftentimes you would hear, or maybe even knew someone that had pretty much stockpiled a great many of those things. You walk into their house and they've got 43, 24 packs of toilet paper, or 15 bottles of Clorox. And so that to me would be that idea of stockpiling things. The next question I want to talk about is the honeymoon phase. And understanding the honeymoon phase is the phase after the heroic phase, right? Heroic phase, everyone comes to the rescue. All this aid comes in, FEMA comes in, all these people are coming in to help, right? And then you have the honeymoon phase. In the honeymoon phase, I want to talk about a portion of the honeymoon phase, which talks about because they've come in and they've helped, this sense of great gratitude, this idea that because all these people are here, everything's going to be okay, and that there's this focus on sharing stories of feeling good, right? And then lastly, there's the idea that normalcy is possible. We're starting to be hopeful again in these moments. But the piece that I want to talk about is when I watched the video on HCU online course developmental video that was titled Needs and Challenges of Disaster on YouTube. One of the things they talked about is that in that honeymoon phase, and we start talking about other people, I mean, we normally will go into an idea of thinking about, okay, well, you've got the pre-disaster, disaster, the heroic, the honeymoon, the disillusionment phase, and then you've got the reconstruction phase. And we're talking about the victim. We're talking about the client that's experiencing those things. But we also have to talk about the other people that are involved, right? The counselors, the pastoral cares, the helpers, the resources that are coming in and putting in all this work. And there's this idea that there's a crash point. Oftentimes those crash points happen because the counselor or whoever's helping, they're overworking themselves. They're in a 24-hour day, they're working 18 hours and they're getting about 6 hours of sleep, and they're doing this sometimes all the way through to the point of relief, of where they even believe that they are in this honeymoon phase and everything's going to be okay, and they're working toward that. The issue is self-care. They're not taking care of themselves. They may not be eating a normal diet. Sleep, we've talked about sleep. They're not sleeping. Average sleep is 8 to 10 hours, so they say, for the average person to feel better and recover. There's a lot of mental energy expelled in helping others. And then there's the not taking walks or doing things for themselves to make them feel good. Yoga, going to the gym, taking a run, something that alleviates some of that pressure, that cognitive pressure, those thoughts that are constantly trying to figure out and problem solve, when really we should be focusing and letting that go for a moment. I know that in law enforcement, one of the things that we were told to do is when you leave and you go home, leave the job at the job, because you're helping people in crisis all the time. So that would be the crash points of who we're talking about. The who, the counselors, the pastoral care. The win is normally in a honeymoon phase and beyond, because they're still helping. Even when we get into the reconstruction phase, at that point, all the help has left, right? Everybody's went back home, and you're left with the individuals that are present, that are normally in your community, your county, or whatever it may be. Those are the individuals that are going to be providing help. And those individuals can crash, can burn out. Sometimes somewhat quickly they can burn out. But if they're taking care of themselves, we know that when we take care of ourselves, there's a little bit of longevity when we're doing things that are good for us, replenishing our soul, then we can survive a little longer. The next thing I want to talk about is the thought in watching a video. It talked about during the disillusionment phase, anger and fear and hopelessness can set in, right? And just kind of talking about what are some of the clinical conditions that may develop from this. And those clinical conditions, when we're remembering and talking about the disillusionment phase, where we have to talk about, even in that phase, that the survivors will start to feel hopeless and they'll feel abandoned, right? Like I said before, everyone's went home, right? All the people that had on their capes and they flew in and the helicopters and whatever the disaster was that was there and doing all the stuff, they've gone. So we're left with survivors that are starting to get a little fearful of their finances, feel a little helpless, feel a little anger, a sense of fertility. I mean, it's like, what are we going to do? I mean, those things are very real. It's easy when you have someone walking by your side that's holding your hand, and they're bringing you through to the other side of this thing. But what happens when they're gone? It's kind of like having a training partner in the gym, and you count on them, right? You've put a lot of hope into them. You put a lot of faith into them. You're grateful for all the services they're providing, the things that they're giving, and then they're gone, right? They're not there anymore. Kind of like that gym partner who just stopped showing up. Now you've got to kind of rely on yourself, and hopefully you have the mental and emotional and physical resources to be able to continue to survive. But we do know in that delusionment phase, it's hard, right? So what do those individuals do when they're feeling that fear, and they're feeling that sense of hopelessness, and they're feeling that anger? Well, the idea is to find treatment, right? A lot of local churches in those areas, as was in the video, and she talked about the program that she's with and how they offer these things, right? Those services are often offered within the communities. They're still there. They're just not as grandiose and as big and as many as there were before, but they're still there. So I thank you guys for this time. I also wanted to identify some resources that I used. Garrett Miller, 2011, Fundamentals of Fundamentals of Crisis Counseling. And I also refer to and use resources of the HCU online course for development under needs and challenges of disaster. Thank you guys for your time. Have a great evening.